Susan. I don't know how to use the most complicated computer ever built. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You're in for a really weird night. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film. Good luck! Have fun! Don't die!
Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot, right? Like, it's a lot. And is it fully explained why that is the title? I mean,
No.
we understand why, of course, they say it's the title.
Sure.
I'm just saying, in the context of the movie, will we ever understand why that is the title?
I would say, without getting into spoilers right at the beginning of this, I would say that it is a gamery sounding phrase.
Yeah, the gamery soundingness of this movie is something we're gonna have to talk about in a little bit. But welcome back. I'm not sure why I'm saying welcome back.
Hey,
It's welcome back.
Cheer. Welcome back.
Thank you. You looked after my cats last week. I was away for a week of vacation. It was winter. Winter break. I don't know which hemisphere I'm in right now. Even though I didn't actually travel very far. We went to Montreal, which was really beautiful. I got to practice my awful French. I was so proud of myself. I managed to have like full conversations in French very badly. And you could tell at some point the people, like the waiters.
Oh, yeah, they don't want to deal with that shit.
They were like, you don't need to do this. Please stop. But I was like, no. I will continue.
Yeah, it's not really, they don't want to talk to you in French. They'd rather just go with English.
I had a couple of interactions that I was very proud of, in so much as I didn't get that reaction.
Oh,
like I got the reaction of like, we're just having a conversation in French right now. And I gotta say, I know it's kind of taken for granted, but the fact that, people in Montreal can like speak both fluent French and English is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And they slip in and out of it so perfectly.
Je suis la jeune fille.
Oui, c'est ça, monsieur. I don't je ne sais pas.
We broke that in 9 different ways.
So it was really, really wonderful to do that. I got to the Montreal Film Society was having a screening of Night of the Hunter, the Charles Lawton film. So we went to see it. Yeah, my wife and my 10-year-old son, we went to see Night of the Hunter. It was great because they gave a lecture about the movie completely in French, of which I followed maybe like 5 minutes of, barely followed it. But it was really interesting to take my son to see that film, to see how he would react. He was like, it's only 30. Have you ever seen Night of the Hunter?
Yes, for a bit ago,
Yeah. It's 90 minutes, so it's really straightforward. It's a little scary for the kids, but, it's like 1955, so it's like, it's not too...
it's 1955 scary.
It's 1955 scary. So he was like into it for the most part. I think he was sort of... He didn't like dip out.
He seems like he's getting to the age, and you can correct me when I'm wrong, that he is about to start liking things that are a bit more outside of the standardized kid wheelhouse. Not that he won't still like kid wheelhouse stuff, but that also he might be able to start actually like not bucking off things that wouldn't be just to those proclivities. Does that feel correct?
Yeah. He's really into manga. So, and then, he's like, he is starting to sound like me, which is like, he is picking up on who the authors are of his favorite book. So, he's really into Dragon Ball Z and One Punch Man. And, there is another one, which I've actually
Naruto?
And Naruto.
Yeah.
He's just started Naruto.
But he'll never finish it because there's so many goddamn books.
There's so much of it. And, but his big thing, recently was Gravity Falls. I don't know if it's a TV show. It's a series of books.
Yep.
It's actually delightful.
Yeah, it's really supposed to be quite good.
A lot of the voices from Rick and Morty are on there. It kind of feels like Rick and Morty for kids.
Sure.
One of the voices from Bob's Burgers is in there as well. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really like that, and it's fun watching that with him, actually.
Let me ask you, speaking of fun, did you happen to, in your travels, listen to Jamie and I's illustrious episode on Wuthering Heights?
I want to say I did.
Wow.
I actually did. And I thought it was actually really lovely. It was nice to hear you two in Valentine's Day mode saying I love you a lot. And I was like, what the fuck? He doesn't say this to me.
No, I mean, not on the podcast.
Not on the podcast. He
least.
never says I love you to me on the podcast.
We finished recording that episode and we're like, that was either awesome or the worst thing we've ever done. We were shit-faced.
Really? No, it didn't sound like you were drunk. You did mention you were drunk quite a lot, but it didn't sound like you were drunk. Although you buried the lead, like right at the very end of it, you mentioned a scene where Heathcliff is masturbating while standing on the moors, or maybe Kathy is.
No, Kathy is.
Okay, and I was like, you buried the lead here. Like, what is going on? Why would this be like just mentioned in passing because I did not see Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights.
Emerald Fennell's Saltburn Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, Saltburn Wuthering Heights. I have not.
Promising Young Woman.
I did watch actually the Samuel Goldwyn version from 1950, I believe it was.
Oh, yeah. With
Laurence Olivier and Millie Oberlin.
Yes. Izzy just did a great episode on Millie.
Yeah. And it was, I actually
She Kind Rewind. Go check that out.
I found that I really enjoyed that version of it. And I know there's a controversy about Heathcliff's casting in terms of his race, and Laurence Olivier is not Indian, which I think is what they mentioned. But he talks about being otherized in that, and he has dark features, and it's black and white, so it kind of feels like he might be.
Yeah, I believe only one adaptation actually has
Andrea Arnold's version.
Yeah, so I don't know. You can listen to the episode of what we thought about it. I've been actually consuming a decent amount of media based on like what I like. Wuthering Heights, the book. I'm not like a fan.
Yeah,
it's good. I would suggest reading it.
Yeah,
but sure. I'm also like, I know a ton of people, especially like LitTube, and I know I was listening to like Broe Deschanel and Princess Weeks and a couple of folks that I know and are friends with, and their takes on it. And I think everything that they're saying is very correct.
Yeah.
I just don't have like I was upset that they cut out half. They essentially cut out half the book, which is kind of par for the course for the adaptations. But like, I was upset about it for like 2 days.
Okay,
because it's not my jam. This isn't like them butchering Mortal Kombat. Don't worry, that's coming.
Right. Carl Urban, right?
Yeah, he's gonna be Johnny Cage. Which listen, I'm here for that. We'll see how it is. We'll all see how it is together. But I agree with all of the criticism, but I was also just sort of like, we still love the book. It's nice.
Yeah. And I was happy to listen to the episode. Because I just started it just to hear it, and then I thought it was fun, and I went along.
I'm glad.
So you can see, like, this is how you can listen to our episode. You just start any old episode and just go along with it, and it might be fun.
Like a drug. Perhaps maybe you listen on your phones, which you could also treat like a drug.
Yeah. It's 570 doses of our podcast. You can write us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. We are coming up to our best of 2025 list, which is always ceremoniously done midway through 2026.
That's right. We'll keep pushing it further and further into the next year. Pray we don't do it further.
This year, it will completely, coincide with the Oscars.
Yeah, I feel like the Oscar episode, which we just discussed before this, the Oscars on the 15th. We will record on the 16th, and we'll put it out as quickly as I can edit it.
Yeah.
So probably the morning of the 17th is my guess. It's going to be a beefy one because it's going to be the Oscar talk. Yeah. It's going to be our top 10 lists. You can email us in your top 10 list to onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Please keep them under a minute because the episode is going to be so GD beefy. And we're going to do the thing the records that I do at my holiday party where where all the guests say their favorite film that they saw that year. It doesn't have to be from that year, but it has to be the first time they saw it would have been in the year 2025. And we got some doozies. I got to trim those down too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, and I try to keep track of all those movies. I publish a letterbox list at the end of the episode of all of the movies mentioned, who wins the podcast with all of the mentions and all the awards that they'll get, and and maybe who won it all. And the fun thing will be that whatever won the Oscars won't necessarily be what wins the Topam Award.
No, it rarely is.
We've never sent out the Topam Award to the winners.
No,
we should.
It's because we're cheap.
And also we don't have their addresses because we are banned from ever contacting them ever again. Yeah. And staying within 15 yards of them.
I was going to say after the 2019 incident, we don't really talk about it much. Yeah, no. But you know who is contacting us?
Is Ross, who wrote us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, who says, "Hello, friends. Finally caught Inside Out 2, and it led me to listen to your episode about it.
Wow.
Felt pretty much the same. Really good for a rehash/expansion pack, and the addition of anxiety was great. We had just watched the first one with our 3-year-old, and they both mostly held their attention, even if the themes were quite a bit beyond her." Ross is chiming in here. I think my son watched Inside Out around the same time, and the main thing I remember my son saying at the end of it, in his very cute 3-year-old voice, was, "It's complicated."
That's right.
That's just true. You reminded me about Robot Dreams on that podcast, which I've been meaning to check out. What a beautiful film. Mm-hmm. My daughter also loved it. Lost interest a little towards the end, but she loved all of the robot dog antics. I know this was a Shahir fave, and I've also had another Shahir fave on the list for a while. If for Fake. I randomly found the Criterion Blu-ray for $10 at a local used bookstore, and at that price felt no reservations about the blind buy, so happy to check that out soon. Very excited about Toy Story 5 this summer and hoping that my 3.5-year-old's first time will be my 3-year-old's first time in the movie theater. Again, Ross, I think if you go back and look at our YouTube channel, I think the very first video we put out might have been my son reviewing Toy Story 4.
Yes.
I believe that was.
If it's not the first, it's early in the cycle.
Yeah, exactly. So we're kind of going through the same cycles, which is weird because they should have ended these Toy Stories a while ago. But I know there was a trailer for Toy Story this week, which I did not watch, but I did see a headline that finally Andy is bald. Andy? No,
I don't know. I did
Woody.
not.
Woody. Finally, Woody is bald.
Oh, Woody is bald?
Yeah. And
he's a toy.
Yeah. His hair has rubbed off.
Wow. But he wears a hat too.
Yeah, well, he can cover it.
There's also a snake in his boot.
Yeah, not any longer.
Wow.
Ross, before you get into If for Fake, I'm so excited that you're getting to watch this movie. $10 is a steal for that movie. I will say, I sometimes think that this movie is such a specific niche that I do worry sometimes about whether everyone will like it.
The mileage with various proclivities.
The mileage will vary. I will say the reasons I like that movie, and you can go back and listen to our Desert Island episode, because I love rewatching that movie because it just basically goes down endless diverging paths, is that it feels like this is the closest that you will get inside the mind of Orson Welles. And I think that's a fascinating place to live. It is not as highest production by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it is, I actually think it's a more fascinating, and I dare I say, better film than Citizen Kane in terms of the body of his work.
I think I'll say these words and I'll choke on them. Student of cinema.
Yeah.
I think I completely agree. I think that F for Fake has more to say and teach us currently about the medium continually than I would say Citizen Kane does today, because everyone has already, it feels like movies in general have learned those lessons from Citizen Kane.
And the lessons from Citizen Kane tend to be aesthetic.
Yes.
Whereas F for Fake is purely, I don't know if it's an intellectual exercise, but it is a rigorous, look, it invented an entire new genre, which thrives today on YouTube, which is the video essay. So take that for what it's worth. I think it's an incredible work of art unto itself, while also critiquing other art. So
video essays, they're never going to catch on.
No one's ever going to get on.
No one's watching video essays.
Not in the year 2025.
No.
What are people watching in the year 2025, perhaps directed by one Gore Verbinski?
Well, if they're listening to this episode, chances are they have watched or plan on seeing Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, which the Internet Movie Database does say is the following. A, quote, man from the future, unquote, arrives at a diner in Los Angeles where he must recruit the precise combination of disgruntled patrons to join him on a one-night quest to save the world from the terminal threat of a rogue artificial intelligence.
Rogue AI. That'll never catch on.
No.
We're not having that problem anytime soon.
No. This is such in the future. This is Terminator, but real.
Yeah. There are so many references to other movies in this movie. Like when he does appear, I was like, oh, we're doing 12 Monkeys now, or we're doing a little bit of La Jetée. There is the time travel element to it, which does feel a little bit Terminator-ish, does feel a little bit Brazil-ish. We have this sort of rogue AI kind of quandary, which again does feel a little bit like Skynet, or even something as simple as the Mitchells versus the Machines recently as well. The giant AI that kind of like threatens to destroy all of humanity.
It's so funny because back in the Terminator 2 days, the heyday of villainous AI, even I'd say up to maybe Ultron.
Yeah.
It always ended with, oh, they're going to make robots. Even the Matrix had, like, essentially there were the Squidward robot things. Like there were like, everything was like, the war's going to be fought against physical machines, not where we're at now, I think, with either this film or the film, which I believe is I would say, moral opposite of this movie, the new Chris Pratt movie where he like has to
that's the
I can't even think of the name of it.
The legal one.
Yeah, where he is strapped to a chair to prove his innocence with the AI Rebecca Ferguson. It doesn't matter because apparently that movie is dog shit. But that movie ends with actually AI was good and people are the problem, from what I understand.
You know why I couldn't think of the title is like I was saying Missy, and then I was like thinking about my trip to Montreal where I was saying Missy everywhere, and I was like, no, that can't be right.
Yeah.
But the movie is called Mercy.
Yeah. So I think now it's just interesting how, like many horrors in our modern day, it is not done with the cool sheen of a sleek metal skull. It's done by dipshits and idiots that somehow we've given enough power and wherewithal to affect our day-to-day lives, slowly drip feeding us away from what makes us human.
Yeah, the central conceit around this particular movie is that our screen time obsessions has taken hold of us completely, and as Sam Rockwell's character says at the beginning, the doom scrolling at the beginning, when you woke out of bed, has now taken hold to become more than just an hour, but is our everything, and we have escaped reality entirely. And are spending just all of our times on phone, which, while resonant and true, also did feel a little bit like on the nose as like someone who was just sort of angry at kids' screen time, I guess, Well,
so yes and no. So I've seen a lot of reviews about this movie and read a lot into them, and they kind of fall into two camps.
Right.
One is, well, this is an old man yelling at a cloud. Like, the problem is, sure, it's there, but like, it's not this bad, or something along those lines, where it's just like, this is an old man mad at young kids. I actually don't get that read. I think the other take that I kind of agree with is, this is an actual legitimate problem that is not just from the quote youths TM. This isn't like a kid culture thing, even though a lot of the rank and file zombies are high schoolers in this movie. But I think it is more like, I would posit that there are just as many adults addicted to the dopamine drip feed that our phones give, myself included, that just as much as kids are. I think that perhaps maybe some of us are sadder about it than maybe kids are, because kids haven't gotten to have the experience of not having that be the reality. But like, there is a definite old man vibe to this movie, but I really appreciated how, for lack of a better term, that was not like, it didn't feel, even though the movie is full of farce, the argument didn't feel farcical. Like, I felt very seen and called out at the same time in what this movie was positing as dangerous and bad. And yeah, it gets fucking weird and borderline offensive in certain sections, but I think it does it all in service of trying to do what Sam Rockwell's character is doing in this movie, is like shaking society enough to sort of wake up and be like, hey, maybe this is bad. So I don't know. That's kind of my first thoughts about this movie. I absolutely adore this movie. This movie is easily one of my favorite films I've seen this year. Yeah, which is not a ton, but actually, I think.
Wait, you could count this for 2025 if you wanted to.
Why?
Because it would fall into our 2025 reviews.
I know you do that horrible nonsense. I will not engage.
Okay, you will not engage. So you could include this in your next year.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
fair enough.
Yeah, I'm saving it.
Fair enough.
What did you think?
I enjoyed it. As far as Gore Verbinski goes, I think I've always found his brand. He's a commercial director to begin with. Did a lot of music videos. Made his way into the feature film world. A great movie called Mouse Hunt with Nathan Lane years ago, this has been bugging me all week, by the way, and I've been trying to find this. But the thing I remember most about Gore Verbinski that always struck a chord with me personally was that, and if listeners, write us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com if you can ever find this, is I saw a photo shoot that Gore Verbinski directed, or Esquire magazine or GQ magazine in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And it was like they had invited a bunch of directors or filmmakers or artists to kind of like do the photo shoots, or, to like direct their own photo shoots. And Gore Verbinski had done one that I thought was quite striking. It was black and white. It was very surreal. I have images of it in my brain, but I have not been able to locate it whatsoever. So it may also be a Mandela effect kind of thing, which is that it may not exist at all. But I remember it and going, man, I think this Gore Verbinski guy is an interesting dude. And I'm curious about the films that he makes. Because I remember also being old enough to go see the movie The Mexican in the theater.
Yep.
With Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts, and going, This is a very precise movie, and I have forever quoted El Camino ever since I saw it. But I have not. I remember it not quite working. Then I know the success he had was with his adaptation of The Ring, which was pretty good. Featured a young Martin Henderson, a New Zealand actor, which I always enjoyed, and Naomi Watts. And then, of course, he exploded with Pirates of the Caribbean with 2 following sequels. He is, of course, in the last few years had 2 kind of, well, this is his first film.
In 9 years?
In 9 years. Or is it 10 years?
Almost 10.
After A Cure for Wellness and The Lone Ranger, both 2 fairly high-profile flops. And this is an interesting movie because it's $20 million. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die is an interesting movie because it's $20 million. For a director of his stature, that's quite fascinating. It's a large-scale movie. So, circling all that. I like Gore Verbinski as a director, his visual precision. He's got a kind of like comedic undertone. We didn't mention the reason I do love him is Rango. Rango,
yeah, you do love Rango.
I think Rango is one of the greatest animated movies ever made, and it is filled with the things that I think he does so well. It's got a gag from Pirates of the Caribbean in it, or a large scale version of one of the gags, and it's like, this is so good. It works even if you're just doing it again. So I like all of that. I think the film is very precise in its execution. And it's amazing that it's $20 million. At some points you kind of feel the sort of scale of it. You know, they're in dark corridors, like small scale action, that kind of thing. But I genuinely liked it. I found that the film lost steam for me around the third act when it kind of gets into its review. It's sort of like it's bigger. It's not so much its bigger ideas, but it's bigger executions of like, what is the AI? How does it work? How do we destroy it? All that stuff I found less interesting than the 2 preceding acts of the film. And you kind of mentioned, it's poking at the social media bubble that we're kind of all living in and like having to deal with now. It reminded me of Idiocracy in that way as well, like the way that we're kind of dumbing ourselves. But the thing that actually really was very hard to watch, but I thought was incredibly smart, was its satire about school shootings in America.
Yep.
That I think living in America is like plays very differently. I'm very curious how people receive that outside of America. But it is like, it's very funny. It's very on the nose. It's very smart what it's doing there in terms of the school shootings. So basically,
what a sentence.
Yeah. Ooh, there's an idea in this film that school shootings that just happen all the time. Nobody pays attention anymore. And there's a technology available which can clone your
child who dies.
Lost child who dies. And there are families there that have been through so many, several school shootings and they've gotten to the point where they're having fun with the clones. They're trying new things, new versions of their kids with the clones. And it's funny, terrifying. I thought that part really, really landed in terms of like the kind of where this movie worked in terms of its satire.
It's a really brutal, harsh, and smart take on it because I feel like many other places in the world, the amount of school shootings that happen in the United States would just not be, no one would stand for it and things would be done.
Yeah.
Not in America. So the fact that it is played up in the way that it is also like leaning into our, as Americans, sort of general malaise of horror, like because
and inability to do anything about it.
Yeah. And for instance, like even turning school shootings into not solving them, but turning them into a marketing opportunity.
Yeah.
So if you don't have enough money for your clone, you can have your new child naturally basically give you product placement in your conversations with them.
Yeah. Why are you saying Pepsi so much?
Which is so funny because that's before we know.
Before we know. Yeah. It's a setup to a gag that's later paid off.
There's a lot of that in this movie.
And her son, Juno Temple's son, is into peach tea, right?
Yeah. Snapple peach tea. Side note, I love Juno Temple.
Right. A big Ted Lasso fan.
Ted Lasso's great. She every time she is on screen and doing anything, I'm like, yeah, I'll show up. She is phenomenal. She's fun here. I was glad to see her in a movie like this.
Yeah.
I think her and Sam Rockwell have a lot of good chemistry. I think actually all the people in this movie really do have an excellent sort of chemistry. All of the reports say like this ensemble was just something that everyone really clicked and was having fun with it. So like there's Haley Lou Richardson, Zazie Beetz, Michael Apina, and Azim Chowdhury that I think are all running around with Sam Rockwell. And it is just fun to watch them all interact and sort of get through all of these wacky situations to try to get to essentially a house at the end of the block.
Yeah.
That is the place where a child is going to invent an AI that does take control over the entire world or poisons us even further than we already are, beyond a point of beyond return.
The child is the Skynet of this universe as far as we know it, and is sentient and will eventually, Sam Rockwell's character has traveled back in time, a la the Terminator, for this particular time to take care of this problem. Exactly. And the other setup to this is that he has done this 117 times now, and there is a perfect combination of, I think, 5 to 6 people in this diner that will actually help him to get through this. This was kind of like one of the few cases, and I thought about you a lot during this, was where I was like, I wondered about this as one of the very few cases where I was like, I think this would play better as a video game than it does as a movie.
So it's funny. I think it doesn't. I
Right.
think the mechanic is a very video game-esque mechanic. You can go to Live, Die, Repeat / Edge of Tomorrow, whatever.
Returnal is a game that kind of...
Returnal is phenomenal, but Returnal is a bit different. The story in Returnal is one of the most terrifying things in the world. Essentially, an astronaut named Celine crash lands on an alien world. And when she finally dies, rather than going wherever you go, she wakes up at her ship again.
Yeah.
And then she has to move again through this alien landscape. And she eventually finds bodies and logs of her going through this still. Like, she's leaving herself messages. Like, somehow there's something that's doing that. The thing about this movie that I really, really liked, also going into it, I did not know if he was actually from the future or not. The only stuff that I saw, which is, but like, they kind of nail it pretty quick that he is here, which I also enjoy. But people equate this also to, say, a Groundhog Day. But
it mentioned in the movie.
But the cool thing I think about this is just that one day at the piano bar in Groundhog Day. Right. Like, we don't see the time jumps. We only see this one jump, but every time he's questioned, he has the answer to whatever is going on based on if it's the person that was in the diner, right? Like, he's done this so many times, he has all the information. So that makes, for me, a very interesting character in what is essentially, outside of the flashbacks, a very linear story about this group of people.
Right.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I love... You get to sort of have your cake and eat it too. You don't have, we as the audience don't have to live all the lives because he has. And
that's, I guess that was the mechanic that I thought was interesting, in terms of, like, it would be an interesting game where you're like a time traveler who has come back and has done this several times over and has to do it again, like this time, and get it right.
But then how would you be able to get that experience? I'm curious. I'm not questioning. I'm just like, how would that experience be done? How would that be gamified if you, the player, haven't had the experiences that your character has?
You're presuming that you would be the Sam Rockwell character. You wouldn't have to be. You could be another. You could be
character. Someone in the diner.
Like this movie, you could also jump around between characters and kind of tell an interesting story that way. I just kind of found there was a part of me that was like, I wonder if the satire of this would actually work better in an interactive medium.
I look, I'm not saying it couldn't be done. I think the satire in this was near perfect in a non-interactive medium. I think they took elements of time travel and did something interesting with it, or took a slice of it, not that we've never seen before, but deep dived into a moment that is normally just a side moment or a small moment in other time travel movies. Just the idea that we are in one loop of this, and one of the characters has experiences a bunch, like even Terminator, we're still in one loop of it, but we don't, like, no one knows what's going on because it's not the same thing.
No. And I think the thing for me is, coming back to the notion that I had that the film kind of lost steam for me towards the end of it, was that by the end of it, we are facing off against Skynet, or whatever that is. And it's visually very compelling, this sort of large room with wires, and there are several reveals that are happening towards the end of it. One of the big ones, and this is a spoiler for the film, by the way. So skip ahead if you, or, stop the podcast if you
stop
don't.
Stop the podcast. Welcome back.
But the big reveal is who Sam Rockwell's mother is, which is kind of hinted at throughout the film. And it didn't play in the way that I think the film maybe perhaps wanted it to play, which is that I kind of gathered that Haley Lou Richardson's character was his mother kind of at the midway point of the movie.
So it's funny. I didn't, but all the clues were there. I think the movie sort of had me just enthralled enough where I was like, just moment to moment, not doing it. It's all very put there. Like I'm like, oh yeah, they did both talk about sunrises. Oh yeah, we're doing this other thing. Oh yeah, he has a weird relationship with her. Like
she's also the Sarah Connor of the world, which is that she is allergic to the technology. You know, like show and you know, I guess for me again towards the satire of the beginning of the film, the kind of reveals of the beginning of the film were pretty compelling, and I thought they were interesting. Even you know, I wasn't as big a fan of the social media kind of, it did feel a little bit like old man yelling at the cloud kind of thing, but I felt like it did what it needed to do for the story to keep moving. But I really like the school shooting thing in terms of like,
you just gotta stop saying that.
In terms of like how that satire was woven through what the film was actually trying to do and say.
That was the second flashback sequence with Juno Temple and her son, who's in that.
But by the time we got to like a flash forward to Sam Rockwell's character at the, you know, in living in the future, and then having to deal with like, I must plug USB stick into this thing. I did find that the film had kind of like, not for me, not quite stuck the landing here in terms of like getting to it got to the end.
I want to touch on that, but I want to talk about sort of I'd like to go a little bit more chronologically. I know we've talked about the school shooting sort of side plot. I want to talk about the teacher's side plot, and I want to talk about Ingrid's Haley Lou Richardson's character, the subplot, the mother. So the teachers played by Michael Pena and Zazie Beetz. I
love Michael Pena, by the way. And I love Zazie Beetz as well. I think they're just both really fun.
That is so do you have a lot of teacher friends? Do you have friends that are educators or in
I do have friends that are educators. We don't talk a lot about, like, the one thing about my friends who are teachers is they don't want to talk about their jobs.
I'd be interested in what they think here. And I have a bunch of friends who are teachers who have essentially said to me in especially high school settings, like, the phones are an absolute problem. And the kids do become monsters when you make them not use them. And this is obviously farcical, like, and it turns them into sort of like there's some sort of entity that's controlling them and chasing around this thing. And then one of the teachers hacks like a you know, not cyberpunk, a sort of like steampunk pistol that like disrupts the phones to like knock them out of it for a second. And that becomes a callback later. But I really, even before it gets to the school shooting bits, there was a real sense of the next illogical step in the dumbing down and the sort of essentially dopamine / rage cycle that everyone is in now, that I feel teachers have been complaining to me about, at least for the last 3 or 4 years.
I mean, we talked about like people, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the Atlantic article about film schools not being able to program films because people don't have the attention span to watch movies anymore. And in the beginning of this film, he's trying to teach Anna Karenina.
And I think like, so there's elements of old man yelling at cloud, but like, for instance, in those articles, one thing you could say is like, well, maybe it's just people's attention span and proclivities for media have changed. And that could be true. And we could be addicted to the constant dopamine hit that length content or the content that we get on these devices does give us. It's so interesting too, because like, God, to be a kid these days has to be more insane. I think like every generation probably thinks that with the leaps in technology and like what's going on, but no generation before this has had, I think, here's a device that can answer literally any question you have. But no one's going to use it really for that. You're going to be going on TikTok. And like, there's nothing wrong. Well, there's a couple things wrong with TikTok, but like, you know me, I like schlock. I like entertainment. But like, I also am a big believer that the pendulum swings both ways. It can't be all schlock and it can't be all the most intellectually stimulating thing. I feel like our brains start to mud over when there's too much of one or too much of the other. And social media specifically, and I like that this movie kind of holds a, no pun intended, sort of black mirror up to that whole thing. Not only like says, see, this is a problem, but takes it to the most illogical extreme to like really try to shake you out. The movie does what Sam Rockwell's character is trying to do in that excellent monologue in the beginning of the thing. It's like shake you out of your malaise.
Yeah.
And I think for $20 million and for what they had to work with here, I think this movie does a really good job shaking you out of the malaise. Like I have since stopped using my phone in bed.
Yeah.
I've just been like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to wake up naturally. If I need to stay in bed and not get up and bullshit my way through some time, I'll pet the animals or I'll read a book.
Like, is that what they're calling it these days?
Pet the animals. There are two large, small animals in my bed and they have to get pet. It is what it is.
Again, the euphemisms are like,
there's no euphemisms. One of them is literally under the table right now.
Shouldn't do that in front of me.
Laszlo, do you hear that? He's just staring at you, by the way. Laszlo has been staring at you this entire recording.
This is a one-eyed monster.
He's got two eyes.
Yeah. For me, yeah, look, I think there's no denying the problem that we have with social media addiction. There is actually a court case right now, I think, where Instagram is being taken to court in terms of its algorithms being knowingly manipulative in terms of a teenager attention.
No.
And
Meta doing something immoral?
Yeah. And I agree with, it was funny. My son was doing homework right as I was about to come over here, and he wanted to know the answer to a specific question. And it was about Native American clothing. What materials did Native Americans, what was their clothing made out of? And, that is a question when you and I were growing up, and this is not to say things were easier back in our day. Well, actually, no, things were harder back in our day. But, we would have to go to a library and look up a book about Native American culture and then try and find the subsection that related to clothing materials and what have you that related to environment, and then find the specific piece of information. And my son was just able to ask, Google, what clothing did they wear? And an answer was brought up immediately. And so I was like, well, look, we should go check the references and sources of all this. And he was like, I don't want to do any of that. I need to know this piece of information, and I will therefore find out this piece of information.
And then it becomes a little bit, and this is just a tiny microcosm of the overall issue, right?
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of this too. This isn't a slight to your son wanting to do that or anybody wanting to do that. It's the ease of it all, right? Like, I don't want us to have to go to the library and look the stuff up and wait and have everything slow and all that jazz. But at the same time, when that did happen, when you didn't have to have a constant screen or a piece of attention or a podcast or dopamine or something going, you were okay with being bored. You
had to have patience
and patience, and the ability for your mind not to have to need to be constantly stimulated is what allows us to concentrate on more complex tasks and issues. That's just it's an attention span thing. So when you're moving, like the act of getting the information is slower and worse, but it is better for, I think, honestly, retention, because you're equating almost like you had to do, I won't call it like work, but you had to have put in more effort, and therefore the information has more value. I don't value any piece of information, 90% of pieces of information that I'll Google on my phone, because it's too easy. There's no value prop for me there. It cost me nothing.
On the flip side, and I think this is perhaps where the nuance is missed in this particular film, but this is not to say that the film is talking about this or needs to talk about this, is that, the democratization of information is important, and technology has allowed more people to have access to information and technology and knowledge, and to be able to learn at an accelerated pace than they ever would have had this technology not been there. And one of the famous, I remember reading an article years ago, one of the famous examples is dance techniques are better taught through video. And most people, understand dance through video, and that is not something that was democratized or is easily accessible 30 years ago as it is today. And therefore you see patterns of dance, emerging in smaller localities in ways that are rapid and evolving, that are more interesting.
Darren's Dance Grooves ahead of its time.
Yeah. And that's really what it's about. You'll see me hip hopping later on in this episode,
or at the wedding. We'll save it for the wedding.
Yeah. I'll do my Leonardo DiCaprio breakdance moves. So I think the movie kind of doesn't quite have the space for that sort of nuance and can kind of feel a little one-sided on that respect. Again, I do want to sort of preface that with saying $20 million movie that is prime, that needs to get from point A to point B and has a lot on its mind. It does a lot of those things remarkably well. And its stylization and its speed and its efficacy, I think, is actually all really working well for the most part. And I think it's only for me in the third act when we kind of see the familiar tropes come into play. So
but what's interesting? The USB drive and the cables and the thing, and they turn to an adventure.
Even the Terminator kind of like, who is my?
But here's the thing:
I found it was fine.
No, but this is I think so. I'm going to agree with you, but then say that the very end of the film, which is actually I don't want to go there quite yet.
Yeah,
Ingrid's story. Real quick, Ingrid's story is basically she is allergic to essentially technology like Wi-Fi or something, caused her to get nosebleeds and headaches. And it's the story of her trying to sort of live her life through that. The only job she can get, at least at first, is being a princess at children's parties because kids aren't all on their phones all the time.
Young kids.
Yeah, young kids. And then she meets a boy who I guess is a pizza delivery person, and they kind of fall in love. And then he starts getting like technology curious, and then it becomes, it's funny. I've heard people give he gets a headset in the mail. He's like, I just want to try it. And then he instantly becomes a zombie. And as a video game player myself, it's funny. I have a VR headset. I have the PSVR 2, and like, I won't play it when Jamie's in the house because it's one of the most, I think it has to be on the outside, alienating things you can do to a person or a partner. This
entire experience,
like you've blocked your eyes and face and ears, and if you're in the same house or the room, like I won't do it.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that like I've heard people be like, well, this is just calling out like women not liking when their boyfriends or partners or whatever play video games, and I'm like, I mean, that's what's happening, but I don't think that's what this is particularly. I think it's calling out the addictive nature of whatever this rogue AI is trying to push. Even when they're walking the street and you see the painting, the classic like ape, like amiibo to ape to man to hunchback to just on the VR set.
Yeah. But look, the movie can't be all things. Right? Like eventually it has to pick a lane, and it has to like. And
I like that he kind of falls, and that's where she sort of gets like. And I also like it because they do have sex at a certain point that doesn't feel like terribly important, but like then that is it's not only like she's his mother, like she's the
mother of the future.
Yeah, but like so. Now, just getting through that to get to the very end, I think exactly what you said is right. Every piece of that ending is worn territory. It's cliche. It's trite.
It's just, and I want to say, it's not that I didn't think it was, I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was familiar, and I lost my novelty.
I think that might have been the point, because the very end of the movie, when they beat it and they put the USB stick in and everything breaks and everyone comes back and it's yay, it actually is a fake out. And he has to go back and start again. And what I really liked about that was when that happened and they won before you realize it was a fake out, I was like, well, this seems so stupid for this movie to do. Everything that happened would be out of a bad movie that would be sort of like algorithmically generated. And oh my God. And that was a really nice, like, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, my disappointment is the point. This is what a homogenized bullshit ending would be. And they're trapped in it. And so when he goes back and decides it's not the diner plan anymore, this whole thing, it's almost as if.
No, but it is still the diner plan.
But it's not him getting the right group of people to do this thing and go on the adventure. He even says to her, he's like, I forget how he says it, but like he basically talks about her ailment as a gift, and we're going to figure out how to give it to everybody.
Right.
And that is something that because
it's funny. It's 12 Monkeys, but it's like from the point of view of Brad Pitt's character.
Yeah.
Like he's
my point is like, that is he has now broken out of the cycle that like, it's a snake eating its own tail until the very end. And then he's not anymore. And I was like, that's the true freedom here, not the other thing. And I was so relieved and just jaw agape at the end of it. Again, this is not the most like hyper complex thing, but it speaks with a clarity and a rage to a real issue that is happening and not slowing down.
Yeah.
And this is the first, in my opinion, pop culture-esque kind of larger film that has not only held a mirror up, like Black Mirror does
Black
this
Mirror,
kind of stuff,
yeah.
but it's never, to be clear, with Black Mirror, and I love Black Mirror, it never feels angry at it. Black Mirror, every Black Mirror episode feels like an inevitability, and we just got to survive. And maybe there's a hint of humanity that could possibly crack the surface.
Black Mirror is also like short, pieces.
I'm not.
Yeah.
You can be angry and short too. I'm saying this was refreshing to see because it's all of those things, and it's fucking screaming at you.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's shaking you hard and making you have to listen to it beyond the, oh man, this is kind of creepy and weird. Like, I don't know. I don't want, trust me, I don't want everything to be this, but we haven't had this version of this kind of story in a pop culture space before. And I really, really liked the rawness and the anger and the, dare I say, sort of like old man shake fist at cloud, but not for bullshit reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm very thankful for this movie. I think it hits on every cylinder. I think, yeah, could it have been more apt if it had a longer runtime or a bigger budget or whatever? Maybe, but it also then I feel like might have lost a bit of that sort of punk rock edge to it, which is strange that Gore Verbinski is doing sort of something of that ilk.
I recall him talking about the fact that Repo Man was one of the primary influences for how they made that movie, which was, an 80s film. And in his sort of estimations, a film that like didn't require permission to make. And he felt that the time was now to make this movie in terms of like not needing the permission to make this movie. And I think there was a conversation with the screenwriter Matthew Robinson as well about like, if we don't make this movie now, it'll be too late because this topic will have moved on. So I think there's a timeliness to it. I think there's a cynicism to my response to it, which comes from the fact that the film feels a little bit familiar and its tropes feel a little bit familiar, even if you're describing the ending in the way that you're describing as like being subversive. It doesn't play to me as subversive or kind of even emotionally resonant as something like 12 Monkeys, or, dare I say Everything Everywhere All at Once, a film about hyper connectivity. And I think, but I do appreciate the swing of this. And I do think that for the most part, it gets to where it needs to go and it does it pretty well. It doesn't, for me personally, as I watched it, the first two acts was so strong and so tight and so constrained. By the time I got to the third act, I found that the third act had kind of like lost its way a little bit in terms of like, it's trying to do a little bit too many things now and not landing them as well.
Yeah. And I took the third act as being exactly what you're describing. And then it turns that on its head. And I was like, that is why it was like that.
Right. But
and look, that everyone's mileage may vary. And I think there's something interesting to say about an Everything Everywhere All at Once to something like this. I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is, even though it is a fantastical experience and sort of world that it builds.
Yeah.
That is a movie that is like truly about a mother and a daughter. Yeah. Like that is like those two characters are the lifeblood and it's their relationship. And there's
an experience going on.
It's their relationship that is the point. A relationship between a mother and a daughter. This movie is not about, and even though there's a father and a son, or there's a mother and a son, it's not like it's not about their emotional journey. It's about the nightmare world that we're building for ourselves. The characters are great in this, but this is not a character piece. Right. This is a look at this fucking nightmare that you live in, and these characters are going to scream at you that you like about it for about an hour and a half. And I think that's sort of, I think different folks will resonate with different sort of messages with these kind of stories. I just happen to, I don't know. I just fucking love this movie.
I look, again, I thought it actually all worked really well. I found for me, it didn't quite have the juice to get towards the end of where it landed for me. But I liked it well enough. And for Verbinski, as coming off of The Lone Ranger and A Cure for Wellness, I think this is a good reset. it's good for each point. There was a little voice in the back of my head, thinking about Edgar Wright taking on this material, just because it's sort of like got that kind of like sharpness to it. And
did you see Running Man yet?
I didn't see Running Man. I didn't hear good things about it. And I wondered about like a small movie like this with a kind of punchiness that might have been good for an Edgar Wright, but also like, Gore Verbinski kind of does what needs to be done here as well.
I think I might watch Running Man tonight.
Yeah, Running Man. I mean, look, I'm always here for Edgar Wright. Like
I'm just curious.
The sort of interesting thing about a filmmaker like Edgar Wright or Gore Verbinski is that those are two filmmakers that I think if they'd perhaps had their major launch points maybe 20 years earlier, before the world we live in now, where you can have like where two flops like A Cure for Wellness and The Lone Ranger kind of derails your career for a long period of time. I think these two filmmakers might have like had a bitter run of their careers at this point. But again, this could be a really good reset for Gore Verbinski, and I do think this actually really works well. And I think there's an energy to particularly the first like first 30 minutes of this movie that like really speaks to who he is as a filmmaker.
It's also good to get him out of the Pirates wheelhouse. I know he did.
I know, but I think he was very clear he doesn't want to go back there.
Yeah.
Like he's very like, I'm not a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan. I know.
Not even of the first one?
Not really.
What the fuck is wrong with you? That movie is almost perfect.
I know for you, the Pirates of the Caribbean is like the movie. Is like one of the movies.
I cannot believe how immaculate that first film is. The other two are good, and then there's two other ones after that, but like I don't know.
Yeah. I read the screenplay for the first one before I saw the film, and so I think I watched it more from like a mechanical point of view. And of like, how is this movie being put together in terms of things? And I, for the most part, I like Johnny Depp in that movie. I really appreciate the fact that nobody in the early 2000s wanted to make a pirate movie like shot on the water because of how big a danger that is, particularly one based on a theme park ride. Like we've had a Jungle Cruise movie since then.
We've had a Haunted Mansion movie. They've tried to make, I think, like 5 or 6 Disney ride movies, and they don't work.
Yeah, so Pirates of the Caribbean is the peak of that ride. But my major experience of Pirates of the Caribbean was I remember being hyped to go see the sequel, and then sitting down for the first 5 minutes of the sequel going, I didn't even like the first one that much. And then like having to sit through the whole sequel, and I was like, oh, this is just not a ride that I'm that interested in.
The sequels are good. The sequels are D&D campaigns that you're not playing. Like they're so long and convoluted, and I don't mind it. And
There's some beautiful moments in both those
sequels. Think the Davy Jones CGI is still immaculate to this day.
But we don't, like in terms of like what those stories are doing past the first one.
This is pirate tropes.
Yeah, and it's like we don't like. I don't even really barely remember what they were trying to do with Davy Jones's locker at that point.
Will Turner was trying to rescue his dad, who went into the service of Davy Jones. The Flying Dutchman.
But I think Rango is immaculate. Like Rango to me is like a perfect movie. Like I have watched that so many times, and I think that is the perfect. Like if in this he is riffing on Terminator 2, 12 Monkeys. In that he is riffing on Chinatown.
Yeah,
and doing it so perfectly. So I kind of love that. And so I wonder if like a filmmaker like that, again, 20 years earlier would have had a very different career to what he has right now. But I think this is actually strong. One just, derisive note was that, the soundtrack was one of the things that I was like, boy, this is really not helping this movie. Like the score for this movie is just not helping whatever it is you're trying to do.
I didn't really clock the score.
So
that's, I guess, the points against it.
Yeah. When I heard the score, I was like, man, this is really, look, it's an experienced composer, but it just felt very first drafty.
I'll say this, who originally turned me on to though, I saw a picture of this and I was like, oh, Sam Rockwell's in a weird looking movie. I'll see it.
Yeah.
Patrick Willems, who's going to be on our show next week for Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie.
Yeah.
Patrick texted me, and actually Alex Low Spec Gamer texted me. Both of them texted me like, have you seen this movie? It is not for everyone. I think you, talking about me, will love it. And I was like, all right.
Yeah,
and they weren't wrong.
Yeah. I think you're the target audience for it. And I like I said, if we weren't doing it for this podcast, I would have said the same thing to you.
Yeah.
Like I would have been like, hey, I think this is a movie you'll really dig.
Yeah.
And there was a part of me that was watching it going, I actually also think this is one of the few films I've ever watched where I go, I wonder what this would have been like as a game. Like as a game first before a movie. Like I really genuinely think this would have this narrative and what this film is trying to do would really work well as a game.
I'm just trying to figure out what about it specifically. I'm not saying it wouldn't. Yeah. I just is it the time travel element of it? Like what's the
it's not just the time travel element of it. It's the actual quest, the sort of quest logic of the whole thing, which is that we must assemble this troop of people, get them from this point to this point in order to achieve this goal, which is inserting a drive in here. And there's a narrative around that. So it's not just the
It's kind of like almost every video game.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost every video game. Yeah.
But like,
yeah. And it was one of the few times where like, again, it didn't 100% work for me as a movie. And I was like, I wonder what this would be like as a game.
Yeah, I don't know. I found the non-interactive of it very, very nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
still fun time at the movies.
This has been the only podcast about the film Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die,
which, as we have discovered, is something we don't understand.
I just like oh yeah, we say it in the thing. It's something we say. Mike,
it's something we say, and it was like, what is the thing you're doing in there?
I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah. Shahir, when you are not, let's see, deciding to change your entire career to be a prince at children's birthday parties to avoid the horrible Wi-Fi headaches, where can folks find you?
You can find me performing Purple Rain at children's parties at my website, suvanova.com. That's SUVANOVA.com. And Matt, when you are reloading your entire VR life into a single USB drive, which you can insert into my computer, where can people find you?
You can find me calling you out for euphemisms now over at my websites, Extra History and Extra Credits. By the time this comes out, I believe... what's going to be out by then? Stuff. I don't even know that we had a hiccup actually at work. We had one of our artists' tablets died.
Oh no.
And it actually was the perfect wrong artist on the wrong project to be delayed, and it cascaded our entire thing. So we're a week behind on things. We've already done like a community post and all that, but every schedule that I had locked in my head is now off. So I don't know what's going to be airing. Kat, our social media director, she'll know.
Can I tell you that happened to me once?
Yeah.
I was the person who died, and the portion that I had was the MTV VMAs.
Oh, good.
And like it was the opening of the show, and like every system that could get that to air, this was post COVID, was in my hands.
No.
And so there was a moment where the entire MTV VMAs, well, it probably would have gone on, but they would have had to be an entire reconfiguring, was me driving around a small upstate Connecticut town trying to find Wi-Fi.
Amazing.
With portions of that show existing only on an iMac that I was carrying in my on my backpack.
Good luck, have fun, don't die.
Yeah, that was a fun moment for me.
So fun.
Yeah. So I know what it was like. I know what it's like.
Yeah, it's rough. Well, please tune in next week. Patrick Willems will be on the show about Nirvana, the show, the band. No, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie.
Is it the show, the movie?
Yeah.
I've been watching some of the old episodes now, which is great.
I have not yet. I'm going to. What a delight. I didn't even know it existed before. Do your homework before the episode and check out that movie because it will be a discussion. Until then, we will talk at you then.
Bye.
Bye.